Federal government refutes U.S. report, restate commitment to security, religious freedom.
Support and intervention set to reach victims of recent workers' violence in Jos, Plateau State.
Federal government flags off work on Abuja-Kaduna-Zaria-Kano Road.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss U.S. tariffs and Nigeria's economy.
The world is reacting to what Americans now call the Liberation Day announcement, referring to President Donald Trump's reciprocal tariffs imposed on countries around the world.
What are tariffs? You may want to ask. Now, these are taxes imposed on goods imported by other countries. The idea behind them is to make foreign goods more expensive than local goods, encouraging local patronage of indigenous goods.
Trump's decisions have triggered and even escalated a global trade war. The trade war escalated when the U.S. president raised the baseline tariffs for Chinese imports to 145% after April 19, 2025. Though some reports now indicate that he has slashed tariff on some Chinese imports like TVS, microchips, computers, phones, and solar panels to 10%.
You ask why? Okay, because local production of those goods cannot be readily available now. But this trade war also targets Canada and Mexico and many other countries, imposing a 25% tariff on their imports to the United States, granting indefinite exemptions to others.
That's true. How does Trump's decisions affect Nigeria? On Wednesday, April 9th, the United States plans to impose a 14% tariff on most imports from Nigeria except oil and gas. But the rollout was halted for 90 days.
And some may say Nigeria dodged the bullet, but the bullet is still going to come. It's just a matter of days. Now, but the impact of the tariffs on the global economy is affecting the price of oil, Nigeria's most valuable export.
Economic analysts are insisting that danger still looms and agree with many, including the country's Minister of Finance, who believes the country must look for permanent solutions to this issue.
And the U.S. president gave reasons for targeting Nigeria in a planned tariff. He says the African Growth and Opportunity Act, that's AGOA, introduced by former U.S. President Bill Clinton in May 2000, gives Nigerian imports unfair advantage over U.S. imports to Nigeria, which are met with 27% tariff.
Well, the real issue here is that Nigeria's 2025 budget is hinged on $75 per barrels a day benchmark price of oil. But the current turmoil is bringing down the price of oil.
Another issue is pressure on the already fragile naira and oil exports. The development is triggering many issues, and that's why on Good Morning Nigeria today, we'll take a look at these tariffs imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump and its impact on the Nigerian economy. Thank you for joining us. It's a new week. I'm Ray John.
And I'm Ademola Adeoye. I also thank you for joining us. We are reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. In a short while from now, newspaper review will come up with Chukwudi Okoli-Ugbaja, but that will be after the news with Stella Namete is standing by. Good morning, Stella.
Good morning, Ademola and Yenre. Welcome. Here is the morning news. Federal government has reaffirmed its commitment to security and religious freedom in response to a recent social media post by the U.S. Embassy in Abuja regarding Nigeria's security situation and statements from some religious leaders. A statement by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs says that the government has taken decisive actions, such as deploying security forces to areas affected by violence, promoting peace building between farmers and herders, enhancing intelligence operations, and implementing policies to address root causes like land use and economic development. While acknowledging the right of religious leaders to express their opinions, the statement emphasized that their testimonies misrepresent the complexities of the situation. It urged responsible reporting that reflects these complexities and encourages constructive dialogue rather than division. Your sacrifices are etched in the history of this nation and in the hearts of millions of Nigerians who sleep safer because of your vigilance. Those were the words of the Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar, to the Nigerian Air Force personnel combating insurgency in the Northeast. As part of efforts to build confidence and mutual trust in the people, Governor Caleb Mutfwang has visited the attacked communities of Boko's local government area to conduct an on-the-spot assessment for necessary intervention. The House of Representatives has named a 19-man ad hoc committee of lawmakers to monitor implementation of the state of emergency in Rivers State. House spokesman Akin Rotimi says the ad hoc committee, chaired by House Leader Julius Ihonvere, with Minority Whip Ali Issa as Deputy Chairman, will ensure that governance in Rivers State remains within the bounds of constitutionalism and the rule of law. This development underscores the resolve of the House of Representatives to uphold the supremacy of the Constitution and ensure that the extraordinary measures during the emergency period remain subject to legislative oversight, guided by transparency, accountability, and the best interests of the good people of Rivers State. The federal government has pledged the commitment to improve road infrastructure across the country for the socio-economic benefits of Nigerians. President Tinubu, represented by the Kaduna State Governor, Uba Sani, was speaking at the flag-off of the reconstruction of the 164-kilometer Section 2 of the Abuja-Kaduna-Zaria-Kano Road. The rallying point was in Jere Council area of Kaduna State. All Progressives Congress APC critical stakeholders in Borno have passed a vote of confidence on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, his vice Kashim Shettima, and Governor Babagana Zulum, even as they stressed need for unity among critical stakeholders and party loyalists. This was part of the communique issued at the end of the critical stakeholders meeting held at the Government House, Maiduguri. And in sports, defending champion Egypt's Zamalek beat counterpart Ali 3-1 to win 2025 African Women's Volleyball Club Championship in Abuja. First Lady Oluremi Tinubu declared the Volleyball Club Championship closed. And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues after the break with Yenre and Ademola.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Ethnicity is unique, we have more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, strengthening unity, we know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Have you heard the news? The federal government of Nigeria, through its direct benefit transfer program, has started the disbursement of 75,000 naira per household in 3 installments of 25,000, 25,000, 25,000 naira. Each recipient must have a validated national identification number, NIN, to receive the payment on behalf of their household members. To benefit, your household must be in the National Social Register of Poor and Vulnerable Households in Nigeria. The federal government's direct benefit transfer program is helping to reduce the effect of suffering while promoting financial and economic inclusion for the poor and vulnerable population in Nigeria.
Afam Bogenika, Ebim Nagara Dimawa Village, Abuja, Nazo Afeba. So Esom Nandi register na NSR government register with my NIN. So government wears them ATM card. Njiwe wete 25,000 naira 3 times. And ega hayam keta barumuru na dem. Eji megoro makamihe. Jikweru mehendozo. Thank you.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, in collaboration with the National Social Investment Programs Agency, National Social Safety Net's Coordinating Office, and the National Cash Transfer Office.
The future belongs to the dreamers, to the doers, to those who are not afraid of the side hustle. It's for those who are ready to turn their passion into something big. And to help keep you revitalized and inspired, Top Tea is with you every step of the way. You are made for more. Find your inspiration. Top Tea, big round bags of flavor.
Hi. You don't know when you have bacteria breath, and bacteria may be the cause of it. Don't let bacteria breath get all the attention. Use Close-Up with antibacterial zinc. Close-Up helps get rid of bacteria breath.
We are live in the open market for Epic 10X Challenge. My people, today I will show you how the power of new Epic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so.
Impossible.
Toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Epic is thicker and sticks better, which gives 10X better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow.
You can now see that Epic is better than bleach.
All right, now time for news paper review.
Well, our newspaper reviewer is here, Chukudi Okoli Ugbaja. Chooks.
Demo, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's another week.
It is another week of hope, another week of daring, another week of faith in God and oneself, and we'll get there. Hello?
Good morning, sir. Good to see you.
Why are you suppressing mirth? That's cheerfulness. Make it happen, okay?
It's a new week, Chukudi. Let's just get into what the papers have this morning. Begin with the People's Daily. The People's Daily leads with presidency. This claims Tinubu's 2027 campaign billboards. The writers ask sponsors to hold action until INEC rings bell as Tinubu's campaign posters flagged Jigawa orders. Above that lead story, we have Nigeria, Tanzania in talks to commence direct flights and bring perpetrators of Plateau killings to justice, can tell security agencies. Away from that, looking below the picture story in a black strip, we have Abuja Kaduna Zaria Kano Highway, vital for socio-economic life of northern Nigeria, and that's credited to Tinubu. Below that headline, we have Zulum orders arrest of culprit over molesting of minor. That's on page 7. And on page 3, you can read up NSCDC, Chinese firm signed $1 billion sugar production deal in Nigeria. Federal High Court judges to proceed on 2-week Easter vacation. That's from April 16. And that's on page 8. And finally, we have FG stakeholders in new drive to end a Marjorie crisis. All right, that's it from the People's Daily. Let's see what the Blueprint has this morning. The Blueprint leads with federal government flags of 777 billion naira Abuja Kaduna Zaria Kano Road project. The riders north hugely benefiting from Tinubu's infrastructure revolution. And that's credited to Uba Sani. President Kaduna Governor deserved 8 years, according to Mahi. Billboards, other campaigns should wait, Tinubu tells supporters. All right, away from that, we can see a picture here, of course, a cross-section of Catholic faithful in a jubilant mood during the Palm Sunday procession yesterday. And that was in Lagos. And below that, we have presidency dismisses U.S. court ruling on Tinubu's FBI DEA reports, says nothing new to reveal. Below that, we have this story here. Nigeria's gas sector attracts over $5 billion in investments. And in the green strip, we have NOAA, Partners Anti-Corruption Advocate for Nigeria Happens to Me project. Above the masthead, IPI Nigeria appoints Idris, Garba Shehu, Egbemode, 26 others to committees. And that's on page 6. You want to find out what that's about. A copy of the Blueprint will do you good. And finally, this morning, on the front page of the Blueprint, we have Palm Sunday. That's the kicker. Khan condemns Plateau killings, urges justice, unity. Demola.
Okay, I have the leadership newspaper. Just above the nameplate, we have Khan condemns Plateau killings, calls for unity. Details on page 8. Nothing new about FBI DEA report, presidency. Details on page 7. And just below that nameplate, we have quite power play, how Canada forced Trump to drop tariffs. Details of that story can be found on page 7. Bandits set mosque ablaze in Zamfara. Reprisal attack. Details on page 7. Ahead of 2027, Atiku Tambuwa El Rufai-led coalition infiltrate Niger Delta. And leads support of agreed stakeholders. Presidency dismisses coalition's antics, says Tinubu. Shetima focusing on governance. Details of that story can be found on page 4. NAS asked to reject bloggers regulation bill. Details of that story can be found on page 6. Governor Yusuf resolved Kano graduate certificate crisis. Page 7. Lawyer justified Imo CJ's appointment. Details on page 30. Presidency disowns 2027 campaign billboards. Details of that story can be found on page 6. Chooks.
The debate about these politicians who are getting into the Niger Delta, why the choice of the word infiltrate? Have they become bandits and insurgents or something? Isn't there such a thing as the right word? Why not they step into Niger Delta or converge on Niger Delta? Infiltrate. That's the way it sounds. It rankles somewhere. Anyhow, nothing new in FBI DEA records on drug case. That's coming from the presidency. Actually, I saw Buala on television yesterday. You know, the anchor person there was asking him questions concerning it. And he, as he rightly said, there is actually nothing new. Some of the things being said have been said pre the election and all that. What may be new is the renewal of interest by the U.S. authorities, not Nigerian authorities, till maybe
the
politicians in the opposition drag it onto our shores. Tinubu has been elected president of Nigeria. What Nigerians expect from him now is good governance. Fine, I'm not saying that if something happens there and something that taints his image is dropped there, that we won't say, hey, why would our president do that? But what concerns Nigerians now is good governance coming from the presidency. Let the case run. We'll see where it goes. But let us not be distracted by things that should not distract us. That's the point I'm making. I'm not defending anybody. Yes. Now, you took up something on the can decrying. I don't like that word. It sounds archaic.
Condemns.
Condemns.
Yes,
Condemns.
Yes, putting a frown on what happened on
In
the plateau. And I say, who wouldn't? The problem in this country is that there is this almost lifelong mutual suspicion among groups in Nigeria. It's not just Nigeria, it's an African thing. I keep talking about it. And at the end of the day, you find out that tribe is the common denominator of all these things. And you say, what is it the Yoruba man has from a psychophysiological point of view that the Igbo man does not have? That which divides us has been created by human beings. That which unites us has been created by God. Why don't we tend to ride with that creed? I talked about the Just Matter. I was GM of a TV station way back in time, at the height of the crisis. I actually had to go to a place to report a story. And one of my lines was, these animals must be wondering where their owners have gone to. That was my stand-up, piece to camera. Because the sheep and goats were roaming, their owners have run into the hills. And you ask yourself, when is this going to come to an end? Is it forever? If dialogue usually ends crisis in the world, why don't men engage it early enough? Why the carnage? Why are we so short-sighted as humans? It pains me. In my time there were stories of children being thrown into wells. Please, this is morning television. Let's not,
I like your point of view, and that was the same point I was trying to make before we started the program. That we should actually challenge our efforts to ensure that some of all these, killings stop. Not looking for how to support victims or families at the end of the day. That energy should be channeled to stopping the killings in the first place. That way, because when you support the victims, does it bring back the loved ones that have passed on? Does it change some of the things that would have gone wrong in the lives of some of these families?
Well, some rehabilitation usually happens when calamity drops. But just as you said, preemptive measures are better than reactive measures. By the way, James Mannock, Jonah Jank's media man when I was in Jaws, called after a program we had here. Because I recall that he called me one day when I was GM somewhere. And he said, Chukudi, what pains me is that it's outsiders who come here to bring trouble between people who dwell in Jos. They show us our differences, whereas those of us on the plateau want to live together. And tears again tended to drop from my eyes. Let us be human, for crying out loud. It's not just a canned concern. Everybody who loves God and loves nature should be concerned about what's happening.
And the National Orientation Agency, towing that line, is also concerned about all of this. I do not know if you've been following the trend on social media. The Gen Zs, there's this line, let Nigeria not happen to you, used in a negative way. That's when something bad has happened, say as a result of a failure in the system or government or whatever it is. You hear the line, let Nigeria not happen to you. Now the National Orientation Agency is taking that line and trying to channel it positively, just to change the narrative.
Turn it around.
Saying that there are people that Nigeria has happened to positively, and their lives, have, changed for the better. I think it's a good one that, the National Orientation Agency is trying to, bring to the fore that it's not just bad things that happen to people in this country. There are people who have benefited, people who have, been able to thrive, who have excelled as a result of being Nigerians.
That's it.
And a part of the system.
You remember the other time we were talking about the huge achievement of the promo maker, broadcaster really, Mike Nwachukwu. He had so many of them on Radio Rivers 2, FM Stereo, Port Harcourt. One of them was, if you do good, you do for yourself. If you do bad, now you sabi. If you do bad, now you go take your head, carry your. Where are those jingles? What are the avenues by which we are molding our youths. And what kind of message are we giving to them? The other time I said the youth corps members were supposed to have received the minimum wage first. I didn't say it because I don't want Ademola to get his minimum wage. I said it because they are stepping into society. You want to arm them with the right psyche about their nation. These are some of the things. I've stopped saying, where is the NOA? A lot can go into reminding us what we owe one another in this country.
Exactly. And you know, there's something that a positive energy does to you. It brings positivity. When you speak positive, you expect something positive to happen.
You feel empowered.
Exactly.
It affects your spirit.
So I think if Nigerians, if we can actually, change that mindset and begin to believe that not just negative things can happen, positive things will happen. Of course, maybe we'll begin to see more positive things happen to us as Nigerians. So
there was this one that was laundering the image of our policemen. Make una call police, yo. Make una call police.
What year was that?
You were still in primary school, my dear. So you will not remember. And Chukudi, the troublemaker, went to one policeman who lived with in Benin City. Instead of make una call police, I turned it to make una call police, yo. Make una call Papa Sasso. The man nearly killed me that day. Not be me then take the good. But these are subtle ways we can reach hearts in this country. Goodness should be descended on Nigerians by our attitude. Live and let live.
The only challenge that we have these days is because of the social media. In those days, we only had the radio and the television.
You could filter it, what was going out to the public.
So you could manage, the information going out to the public. But now,
Deborah, thank you very much.
Social media also has its positive side.
You can sit down in your home or your house and just churn out anything that you want.
You could actually recline on your mental health issues.
Are you also going to blame social media for the campaign posters that are flying around?
No, look, people will get on Bolikaja, people will get on Molue, people will get on four-wheel drive to say Tinubu is our man in 2027. They have their different reasons. No problem. What we tell them is INEC has not lifted. And that's what the president is saying. Otherwise, human beings, after eating an occasional fat lunch, will do whatever they want to do. There's nothing the nearest of this world can do about it. That is the way we are.
Whether or not INEC, says it's time to go on with the campaigns, I think it's just too early. We should allow the president to concentrate on governance. This is 2025. I mean, this is just April.
I agree with you.
Do you understand? We have 2026. And, this election is not built to happen until, sometime around 2027.
Is the one thing is this is not the first time. It's usually a circle.
It will keep on happening.
It is
that
usually
is the way we
circle.
Are. People who have been waiting on the wings would recommission themselves. You call them opportunists, whatever you call them. They are real. They are part of what you need to manage in a democratic process. You understand? But I think governance should.
Yeah, talking about governance, the federal government flagged off 777 billion naira Abuja, Kaduna, Zaria, Kano Road. I think the government deserves an applause for that.
It's a good one, but I dare say that it didn't start with this administration. Buhari worked on some northern roads in his time. We should commend the fact that the good work started even before now. We can only take it further and make life more livable for people on that axis of the country.
That's why continuity is good.
Continuity.
In government policies.
And they seem to have, it started with Buhari, they seem to now believe that I don't have to upstage what my predecessor started just because I want to have a new cycle of contractors.
They shouldn't do that.
And it's having a positive impact.
Of course, yes.
No, but you don't expect that. I mean, it's the same government. You don't expect that. It's the same government. So you don't expect that there should be discontinuity.
Be the same government.
It's the same what?
It's the same party. It's the same party, I wanted to say, sorry.
I've been speaking so well.
The same party.
You want me now to lambaste APC. Don't you hear them quarrel among themselves? Don't say na journalists we be. We go talk what we see. But I think that APC is putting its house together gradually. When APC came in, I said something. I said there is experience, PDP has at the national level, which they have to learn. However, Sabi Chukudi, don't start again. APC learned those things. It takes time. But the important thing is, what are the intentions? Where are they headed? Is it for the benefit of the people, their well-being? That's what it's all about.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead.
Go ahead, Chukudi. Oh, did I say Chukudi?
I can continue my rat
No.
Am I the machine gun of Good Morning Nigeria?
No. It's okay, Chooks. We'll take a break now. Good Morning Nigeria continues. Stay with us.
The Nigerian national flag represents our country's history, culture, and identity. It was designed in 1959. The colors are Emerald Green 2.0, which represents agriculture, and Immaculate White represents unity and peace. Know how to handle our flag. Illuminate the environment or don't fly the flag overnight. Do not fly a dirty or tattered flag. Take such flag to the nearest National Orientation Agency office for proper disposal and replacement. The national flag can only be flown at half-mast on the directive of the federal government. The national flag must be flown at the same or higher height when displayed alongside other flags. Don't burn or allow the national flag to fall on the ground. Do not print, decorate, modify, or insert the coat of arms on the flag. Our national heroes are not buried with the flag. They are honored by presenting it to their next of kin during internment. Respect our national flag. Be a real Nigerian.
This message was brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Hi. You don't know when you have bacteria breath, and bacteria may be the cause of it. Don't let bacteria breath get all the attention. Use Close-Up with antibacterial zinc. Close-Up helps get rid of bacteria breath.
We're live in the open market for Epic 10X Challenge. My people, today I will show you how the power of new Epic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so
Impossible.
Toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Epic is thicker and sticks better, which gives 10X better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow.
You can now see that Epic is better than bleach.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the Naira.
Nigeria is perched on the treasure trove of solid minerals. Gold, coal, tantalum, tin. But none is more critical to our future or the world's future like lithium.
Let's talk about illegal mining operations. What is our strategy?
And before we bring in our guest, let's listen to this background report put together by our correspondent Timothy Yusuf.
The recent U.S. tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump, known as the Liberation Day tariffs, may have significant implications for Nigeria's economy. These tariffs include a baseline 10% tariff on imports from most countries and additional country-specific tariffs based on perceived unfair trade practices, with a 14% tariff on certain Nigerian exports. Potential impact of this development on Nigeria's economy include trade disruptions where higher tariffs on U.S. imports could lead to retaliatory measures from other countries, including Nigeria, potentially disrupting trade flows and affecting Nigerian businesses. Secondly, Inflation with expected increased tariffs could lead to higher prices for imported goods in Nigeria, contributing to inflationary pressures and affecting consumers' purchasing power. Economic instability is another factor. Here, the uncertainty surrounding the tariffs could lead to economic instability in Nigeria, particularly if the country relies heavily on imports from the US and other countries affected by the tariffs. In the meantime, the measure taken by the US also threw in some key concerns for Nigeria. They include export-oriented industries, where Nigeria's export-oriented industries such as agriculture may face challenges due to potential retaliatory tariffs from the US or other countries. Another concern is import-dependent sectors, where sectors reliant on imports such as manufacturing may struggle with increased cost and reduced competitiveness due to higher tariffs. Global trade uncertainty is another key concern. The tariffs could exacerbate global trade uncertainty, potentially affecting Nigeria's economic growth and development. In mitigating the impact of the US tariffs, experts believe that Nigeria could focus on diversifying its economy and reducing reliance on imports to mitigate the impact of tariffs. Trade agreements, they also believe, can be strengthened in the direction of trade agreements with other countries that could help Nigeria maintain access to key markets and reduce dependence on the US. Economic resilience is another area by building through prudent macroeconomic policies and investing in human capital geared towards helping Nigeria navigate the challenges posed by the tariffs. In the meantime, the federal government has constituted a committee to review the effects of international tariff regimes and shifts in global commodity prices. The Economic Management Team, chaired by Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, inaugurated the subcommittee to handle the assignment, sparked by U.S. imposition of a 14% tariff on certain Nigerian exports. Come along with us on Good Morning Nigeria with details from our array of discussants.
Thank you very much, Timothy Yusuf, for that background report. And we already have our guests seated in the studio. And just let me introduce our first guest here, Ambassador Bolaji Akiremi. He is the Director, Foreign Service Reforms and Innovation Department, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Ambassador Akiremi, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
All right. Good to have you. Also joining us here is Dr. Ken Okawa. He's the President, National Association of Nigerian Traders. Dr. Okawa, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, and Good Morning Nigerians.
All right, also joining us for the conversation via Zoom all the way from Lagos is Dr. Muda Yusuf, CEO, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise and former DG LCCI. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
All right, good morning. So let's look at these U.S. tariffs, which the U.S. government has said that the aim is to address trade imbalance, promote domestic manufacturing, and assert economic sovereignty. Ambassador Akiremi, what's your take on these tariffs? Let's have your view on it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, trades are usually instrument of foreign policy and take care of local needs. So it takes care of two things. So U.S. under President Trump is using this instrument in a very unique manner that will attract international attention and that require international participation. As you know, post-Second World War, trade has moved into multilateralism, whereby we have the WTO and we have a rule-based multilateral institutions. What is currently going on is unilateral, and therefore it's affecting U.S. relations with so many other countries. But in actual fact, it's within its sovereign right as a country to determine the course, the trajectory they want to go. What is rather surprising to people since 2017, when President Trump first came to power, was that this was without consultation and disregard for even those who are traditional partners and allies of the United States. Trade, as we have seen now, and as is within, has become a weapon in the hand to emphasize his position for America first. But we must know that there is no country is an island. And no matter how powerful you are, you need others. But you see, this is psychological. It's trying to really demoralize people to the extent that they will submit. You know, so those who put him in power are quite happy because this is what they wanted him to do. We must understand the local politics in America, and we must know that America always wants to assert itself as #1 country. But the entire world now have to rise up to it. And this is also, it's not just a warning, but I think it's a wake-up call for nations like Nigeria, who are giants in their own right, but who have been punching below belt. So that from this moment, we know that there might continue to be Trumps coming in different parts of the world. Everybody for himself, God for us all. So we are in the era of realism in international relations. And this goes not just into trade, but into every aspect. So when you go cap in hand and you continue your loose and very dynamic relations and domestic policy, this is what you have. You go into panic mood, and your people are going to become second-class citizens. This is now time for Nigeria to stand its feet and become a trade hub for Africa, a trade hub for developing countries. A country of almost 250 million people cannot be treated shabbily and with so much potential. So this is the time now for us to realize that we have slept for so long. We need to wake up. We need to wake up not just by mouthing it, but by concrete. And this requires cooperation of citizens. The president is trying, because him being a businessman, has told the line of capitalism, and that means we have to do something to get something. Nothing venture, nothing gain. But while you are doing that, there is no country that is entirely and completely capitalism. You still have to support ventures by people. But this time we have to stop corruption. One of the bane of underdevelopment in Nigeria is that money allocated for purposes are never used for it.
All right, Ambassador, of course, we'll hear your views on all of that and, you know, how we can actually wake up, you know, like you have said. Many thanks for your opening comments on this particular issue. Very striking very striking statement that you made. Everybody for himself, God for us all. And it looks like that's the position Nigeria must, you know, really take seriously. Now time to get to Dr. Okoha. First and foremost, I'd like to hear your impression, you know, when the announcement was made first. How did you feel about it? What are your thoughts about this tariff?
Well, thank you very much. I want to start by saying that this was not unexpected. The whole world ought to have been prepared for this kind of shocker, knowing the promises that Trump made to his people before assuming the office. That's pre-election. And his America First ideology, the concept, is being implemented. So it's not a shocker. The second thing that came to my mind is that in his own way, he's being patriotic. And to many Americans, he's also being patriotic. In the sense that he also wants to dig into that America First policy. Getting more for America. Even though this, concept of tariff, technically, for some of us in trade, we know that it works like a two-headed snake. the third thing that came to my mind is that, look, well, many countries have also used this before. My own country, Nigeria, has used something like this. It may not have been tariff, but a kind of non-tariff destabilization. I'm sure you know that for close to 2 years, Nigeria closed her borders against other West African countries. No consultation, nothing, not following the rules, the ECOWAS rules. Some of us supported, actually, that you needed something like this, but you needed to also go within, along the processes enshrined within the ECOWAS protocol. And that was not done. And, well, government at that time, government of Nigeria, that slammed that border closure, told us that it did it for Nigeria first. And this is exactly what Trump is doing. Even though it also backfired on us. Because investments were lost. Whose investments? Nigeria's own investments. In trade, in transportation, in the banking sector, financial sector, and all of that. Investments were lost. Today, where is the report? Who tells us what happened? What were the implications? What are the consequences? We do not know. So, it's not alien. Number 4, rather, is that tariff is allowed even at the multilateral level where all of us belong, at the WTO. And one of the rules of the WTO says that you can use this as an instrument to regulate your economy. Yes. It's allowed. You can also use it in another frame to regulate investments. Some countries use it to bring in investors who are hitherto exporting into their country. And then they will tell you, okay, we want you right now to relocate and come in here so that you don't meet tariff again. But I'm looking at how prepared we are. Did we not envisage this? Within the context of all that we have been signing and where we belong and all the things that have been going on at the multilateral level, did we not envisage this? While we are negotiating AFCFTA and all of that, did we not envisage that this will come at a time? And then if we did, how prepared are we? And of course, Trump has said, now, come on, I slap you, you wake up. And then suddenly he says, okay, pipe blow. For you, I'm not targeting you, but are we going to sleep? Good enough. During the introductory, remarks, the federal government has set up a committee. Yeah. Thumbs up. But that's a bit late. Thumbs up. But that's a bit late. Number one, we ought to have had surveillance, economic surveillance, tilted towards trade by now. 2, we ought to have had buffer that will protect our non-oil exports, which has for some time now been on a kind of gradual increase. Courtesy of AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act. For over 25 years, we also need to ask ourselves, what have we as a country gained? AGOA provided and provides free duty, tariff-free exports. How prepared have we been? What have we gained? Is it now that tariff, 14% tariff or 10% was announced, that everybody now starts hustling about that? What have you been doing for 25 years, I ask? Let me shock you. Ethiopia, as a country, has been under ban on AGOA since 2020 because of human rights related issues. Of course, you and I know. America said no, under human rights processes, You are therefore banned, excluded from AGOA. But Ethiopia sat up. They foresaw what was coming up. And they looked at the sector that will give them what they want. And that sector is textile and apparel. You know, Ethiopia now started preparing, even before the coming of Trump. And they targeted 27% of, that they're going to get the 27% of all AGOA on textiles. And they've been doing that. So they are under tariff. We are not under tariff. We are tariff free. But they have planned this. As I speak to you today, Kenya, Lesotho, Madagascar, I'm mentioning all of these countries. Go and check your records. Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, Ghana, and Ethiopia. These are countries, 8 of them have had these committee set up at technical level, at steering high level, meeting on the consequences of this tariff. Just 2 days, some of them 2 days after the tariff was announced. Where have we been? What have we done? I know the beauty of what all of these things also present is to show us our vulnerability. You don't have a national carrier that will move your goods straight. I move my goods today to the United States. It will go through Ethiopian airline and it will slip over in Addis Ababa. When they like, they will send it. If this is perishable items, of course, non-oil, majority of them are agro-based. And I can mention cashew. These are non-oil exports that have been doing well over time now. Lead product. You have, some of these processed food items that Nigerian women are now doing, and the markets are doing well over there. So these items are vulnerable. Their shelf lives are very low, short. And so, for Ethiopia, for South Africa, for Egypt, for Morocco, for Tunisia, all of these countries, Kenya, they have national carriers that will move the export immediately, cargo straight. Under that one day, 24 hours, their goods are there.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your opening remarks there, Dr. Okwaya. Let's go to bring in Dr. Muda Yusuf now. Let's have your view on this tariff, and also, do you think we're prepared, just like they said that we are not actually ready for it? And what impact will it have on our economy, in particular trade and investment?
Thank you very much, and good morning once again to the ambassador and my friend Ken Okoa. Well, there are 2 levels of impact of this Trump tariff issue. There is the direct impact, there is the indirect impact. Now, the direct impact will have to do with our export exposure to the United States. Don't forget, this is essentially about exports to the United States, because what the regime wants to do is to correct the trade imbalance between other countries and the United States. And the good thing about it is that our vulnerability has been a bit limited, in the sense that most of our exports are actually oil and gas. Between 85 to 90% of our export is oil and gas. And Trump, in his pronouncement, has said that energy products are exempted. So that means 90% of our exports, even to the United States, have been exempted from this. So we are left with the 10%. And of the 10%, maybe just about a quarter or even less I'm talking of non-oil export now, actually has its destination the United States. So I'm saying all of this to show that in terms of direct impact on bilateral trade between us and the United States, it is not so significant because oil and gas products have been exempted, and oil and gas accounts for close to 90% of our exports. The second direct impact will be the imported inflation from the United States. We have businesses that import from the United States. Obviously, this Trump tariff will have some effect on inflation domestically in the United States. So for businesses that import from the United States, we are likely to see an increase in their costs of imports, whether it is finished goods, whether it is raw materials. So at that level, we are likely to have some negative impact for countries that are importing from the United States. But let me also say up front, because of all the issues and the pushback that has happened on this tariff, we all know that Trump has suspended the reciprocal tariff for 90 days to allow for some negotiation and all of that. But he has retained the flat 10%, which he said every country must pay. But anything above that has been suspended for 90 days. And again, because of the pushback and the effect even domestically, both to domestic investors in the US and to the citizens of the US, Trump has lifted even the special tariff on China. So that means even President Trump is feeling the heat, although he may not want to admit, he's feeling the heat because this policy is having some significant backlash on his own economy. So even the sustainability of this tariff regime is in doubt. You can see that they have been going back and forth, creating all sorts of inconsistencies and creating a lot of uncertainties in the global economy. In terms of indirect impact, the indirect impact will be the impact on the global economy because there's a big risk that what Trump is doing is going to create a major issue at the global level. It's going to slow down the global economic growth. And once that begins to happen, we have a bigger vulnerability in that because once the global economy is slowing down, it will affect commodity prices. And here we are heavily reliant on oil and gas for our foreign exchange. So that is a major vulnerability. And that is what brings me to the point that Ken and the ambassador were saying about the need to diversify. Our diversification is extremely, we are still too dependent on oil and gas for our export earnings. So that is very critical to reduce vulnerability. So the bigger impact on us is the impact on the global economy. Today now, crude oil price is about $64. A few days ago, it came down to close to $60. Our budget benchmark is $75. So you can imagine the impact of that, even on our budget, the impact on our foreign exchange, the impact on exchange rates. You know, so these are things, bigger issues that we need to worry about, you know, about the impact of that. And of course, there's also the risk to our foreign exchange inflows. Because each time we have this kind of issues, the risk of portfolio reversals is also very high. Because we are likely to see high inflation in the United States. When we see high inflation, what we follow, led by the US Fed, is likely to be high interest rates. And when you have high interest rates in the US, you are likely to affect portfolio flows to the emerging economies. So that may affect our portfolio flows. That may lead to reversals of portfolio flows. And that will have an impact on our foreign exchange. And you can see what is already happening even to the exchange rate over the last 1 or 2 weeks. So these are bigger things that we need to worry about. Of course, there are opportunities as well. Because this situation will create opportunities for new markets, to create opportunities for new trade partners. because people are now beginning to lose confidence in relationship with the US, which of course is the largest economy on the continent. So there may be new opportunities now for our investors, to have, more partners with better conditions, in China, in Asia, in different parts of the world. So it's also an opportunity for us to double down on our efforts on domestic trade within the continent. I'm talking of the after. Because it's a lesson for us to look more inward so that within the continent we can do a lot more to strengthen trade within the continent, which of course we have been doing, but we have not been moving fast enough. So these are some of the views that I have, perspectives on what is happening with this Trump tariff.
Thanks, Dr. Yusuf, for your comments. Well appreciated, and you've highlighted some very significant points in your comments. Let's get back to Ambassador Akinremi now. Listening to Dr. Yusuf talk about, first and foremost, the fact that the budget is, the benchmark for crude is $75, and now, what do you think Nigeria can do in the immediate? I'm just thinking because, this is, besides the long-term impact of this, there's the short-term impact, that we're already feeling at the moment. What do you think Nigeria can do in the immediate, to be able to, deal with this, just so that we're stable, we're not shaken, by all of this?
Well, the first thing to recognize is that the government already foresaw this. I don't subscribe to the fact that we've not done anything. You can see that we are not really panicking. Possibly that's why you've not seen much of the movement. You see, for things like this, emergency arrangement don't work because it requires a long time for those things to fester and for them to blossom. Whether you set up a committee now, it will not stop what Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is doing, because they have the role in this. It will not stop what Foreign Affairs is doing in terms of negotiation. And this is the time for us to push for fairer deals for developing countries. And this we are doing. We also need to increase our role in the WTO or in trade governance. Because, yes, we have a Nigerian as the DG, but that doesn't really represent us enough. We need to increase our voice now. Fourthly, we need to continue diversifying, just as we're doing. But you see, in terms of energy, the YSA government probably started this with Dangote in our continent and what it has started doing. The shock wasn't so much. So we have to give that credit to the successive government that have encouraged this type of production in Nigeria. But more importantly at this time, we have to get to the grassroots. You see, and we have to standardize our product. We couldn't take great advantage of AGOA because a lot of the goods were being rejected. But I think Standards Organization now has come up to realize this, and all of these are being packaged very well. We need a concerted effort. We need to work within ourselves to know that this is our goal. This is what we are targeting. The private sector, and I'm very happy this morning to be on this show with practitioners, I would say. The two of them are well known for the roles they have played. Now, we are the part of regulator, and at the same time, we are activists. Activists in the sense that we are the ones that are in the forefront, either in those trade organizations or those international organizations where negotiations take place. So, but now we need to coordinate. We need to know, the direction we're going. Like when we were negotiating after, there was this agreement between Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and the government side, and we have to step down. We almost lost that, what's supposed to be our area, because we didn't quite move at the right time. But at this time now, we must continue to suspect that there will continue to be disruption in the international system. It is part of promises that politicians make, and they want to effect it, and it affects other parts of the world. So for us in Nigeria, we need to cooperate with government now. Our youth need to be up and doing. You see, we do almost 500 million export of hibiscus to Mexico. A majority of it is done by youth. I have seen them, I know them. And there are other crops. Nigeria is the exceptionally blessed country of the world. All we need now is coordination. And government need to also put money, into some of these things and make sure that those who are coordinating them are doing well. But we must give credit to this government. Look at what has been done in terms of Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock. But I like what Mr. Muda said. Even though we have 90%, oil and gas, but it is still of substantial value, even though it's not affected. But the fact that the price will still crash, I'm sorry, that may look, because these policies will have impact on production. And once production is affected, the quantum, particularly in China, the quantum of energy that will be required will drop. And you that you are exporting it is going to affect you. So what we need to do now is that while we focus on diversification of our export, we also need to diversify where we export to. And this we're already doing. With this government, we have increased our relations with Middle East and Asia. Now, there's huge population in those parts of the world. Our focus has always been through the Western country, Europe and all of that. It's still good we maintain that. But we need to open new flanks. We need to have new friends. Okay? And we need to coordinate very well.
Do you think that this tariff will impact our trade relations with the U.S.?
Oh, it's already impacting it. You see, because, once pronouncements are made, people start acting on it.
So what diplomatic moves should be used to address the impact?
We are working at both levels, bilateral and at multilateral level. Okay. And our mission is also being enhanced. And of course, there is consistent briefing to our representatives. And direction is being given on where we belong. Of course, while we cannot stop President Trump or America from their own domestic policies, we also have a right to resist. And we have a right to also show the direction we want to go. All right? Even though I say all country for themselves, it's a way of telling us that we are also sovereign. And we have a right to determine the trajectory we want to follow. And this we are doing. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is on top of his game. Trade is part of foreign policy because of economic diplomacy.
All right, many thanks, Ambassador Akinremi. Let's get to Dr. Okoha now. Listening to Dr. Yusuf earlier, he was talking about the fact that this would open other vistas, other markets. People will begin to look away from the U.S. and look at how they can, relate with other markets in terms of trade. For Nigeria, do you really think that there are other markets we can begin to look at, outside of the U.S.? I'm just thinking, is it possible for many African countries to do without the U.S.? And for Nigeria specifically, what other opportunities do you think we should be looking out for at this point?
All right. I strongly believe that the market space is so wide and many yet untapped. And I'm carefully using that word, untapped. And I want to give you an instance. Last 2 years, we set up a modern abattoir, a modern meat factory here in Abuja. Of course, many people do not know. I own that place. And then the Arab countries, UAE, Saudi Arabia, they came visiting the Ministry of Trade and Investment. Okay. Also went to the Ministry of Agriculture. Now, Saudi Arabia wanted about 7,000 halal slaughtered goods daily. I mean daily, 7,000. They came to a meat factory and we said, we don't have the capacity to do 7,000 on a daily basis. Our capacity is about 500. Where did they go to? It was a big issue. The ministry said, okay, we will see how to support you to expand, since this is the only modern meat factory that has been identified in Nigeria. And till today, we have not gotten any discussion over this. And these people are writing regularly. Now, it shows you the level of market opening out there. Oman also came in to the show. Now, but let's get back to where we are. Within us, surrounding us, West Africa is made up of 15 member countries and now 12. Because 3 have,
exited.
Well, but if you look at the tabulation of the population market share, West Africa is about 466.6 million people. United States current population is about 346 million. Within West Africa, which is our next door neighbor here, back door.
It's a bigger market.
Very huge market, but dominated by foreign elements. What are we doing? Charity, they say, begins at home. What have we done to conquer those markets? What has government done? I'm sorry, I'm being a bit.
No, go ahead.
To also create some surveillance mechanism that identifies sectors that we should win. These are things. Because it is that surveillance that will help the private sector to say, this is where my arrow, the dart of export, will hit. That's number one. Number two, strategically, we've been talking since, in fact, I did in 1989, when I was writing a thesis on regional integration and regional law. We all hammered on diversification of the economy, From that time till today, we are still talking about diversification of the economy.
Paper.
On paper. Sometimes, if I bring out that, I will laugh and I say, look, what a country we are, what a people, including myself. What have we done to diversify? I talked about the apparel sector, the garment, textile sector, which is a sector that Nigeria holds a big flag. But countries like Lesotho, Madagascar, Mauritius, they are winning. In fact, if you look at the 6 countries exporting more on AGOA to this same United States market now, Madagascar, Lesotho, Kenya is number 1. Ghana, behind us here. Then Ethiopia, that's on the ban. And then Morocco. If you look at them, you can't find Nigeria. But go out there in the United States. Once you wear a Nigerian attire, look at how gorgeous you are looking. Everybody is admiring you. But do you know that these countries are now copying Nigerian styles and taking over a market that belonged naturally, traditionally to us? What a shame. You know why? Because the environment is quite conducive for them. Let me look at 2 areas that we need to also explore. One is the area of power when we're looking at diversification. 2 is the area of transportation when we want to diversify. I don't see why, if you look at it today, I was talking with a friend yesterday. I said, look, the rail sector that the previous administration started with, and we felt, yes, this will boom trade, the distribution of this thing appears to have been abandoned. And we're looking at bogus going into, I don't want to go into that politics, but look at what we can do for ourselves. We had some remedies. Number one, let's also have a parliament that looks away a bit from politics and discusses economy. It will help us. Number two, let's also look at states. Not everything should be on the government, on federal government's shoulder. States are there. The Aba is in a state. Newi is in a state. Onitsha is in a state. Lagos is in a state. Ibadan is in a state. Kano is in a state. I am mentioning these productive, highly productive areas where, if care is not taken, jobs are going to be lost, courtesy of indirect effects of the tariff. And we shouldn't also sit down now because the thing has been waived for 30 days. No, it is even a time to jolt yourself, propel yourself to action. And I think also that we must begin to look beyond the committee that has been set up by the federal government. What is going to happen between the committee and the technical side and the practical side of history, which looks at the private sector, who are supposed to be the purveyors, the implementers of whatever the outcome is? There should be that kind of interministerial coordination, number one, and then public-private sector collaboration to hit the bull's eye. And this is where we can now begin to make gains in other markets beyond America.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ken, for your contribution there. Let's bring in Dr. Muda Yusuf now. Dr. Muda Yusuf, we're looking at other options now, available for Nigeria besides the U.S. market. And how can we create, opportunities, to channel our exports so as to help our country's economy?
Well, Dr. Ken Ukoha had elaborated extensively on that, and I agree with him fully. You see, export is about competitiveness, just like any other business. And if you really want to make an impact, even if you have opportunities, just as he said, we had opportunities in AGOA, Africa Growth and Opportunities Act, since 2000. We are talking 25 years ago. It was under Bill Clinton that AGOA was put in place. And what AGOA meant was that all African countries were free to bring in their products to the United States, free of duty, no import duty at all. That was what AGOA was all about 25 years ago. As a country, we didn't have much to show. And just as Ken said, smaller countries like Mauritius, Ethiopia, some South Africa, Botswana, and all these other countries, Madagascar, took great advantage of it. We didn't take advantage because of competitiveness issues. Because exporters, like other domestic investors who are in production, are going through a lot in terms of competitiveness. And if you are not competitive, even if you have opportunities in the market, you cannot take advantage of the opportunities. So it's about competitiveness in price and competitiveness in quality. Those things are very critical and they are very fundamental. They are as well very fundamental even to all this talk about economic diversification. You can see now that it is more profitable to operate in the services sector than to operate in the production sector. Go and look at the financial statements of operators in all these different sectors. You will see a big difference. And yet we need to build this capacity for production. That is what Trump is suffering now. That's what the United States is suffering. But it's an illusion to think that you can change that overnight. You can't. It's a process, it's a journey, it's a marathon. You need to build the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure, the financial infrastructure, the regulatory environment, all these bottlenecks in the exporting process. All of these things needs to be removed. Because one thing we don't lack in Nigeria is entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs that are very creative, very innovative, very energetic, very hardworking. But we need to create the environment. So that is very, very important. And this should happen across all sectors. I mean, we have been making a few efforts in the area of services, ICT, creative industry, and all of that. But when it comes to production, it's a completely different ballgame. So the government needs to do a lot to support infrastructure that supports production. That's extremely very important. That is the only thing we are asking for. Yes, we are asking the private sector to come into infrastructure and all of, but there's only so much the private sector can do in terms of infrastructure provision. Infrastructure provision is a heavy lifting that countries need to put in place to support the private sector. That is what is happening in China. China has one of the best infrastructure globally. They are one of the best logistics. So it doesn't stress the producer. That is why they are dominating the world. And if anybody thinks that this can be changed overnight, the person must be dreaming. Because they have been doing this for decades. So we need to follow that model. Secondly, we need to worry about the immediate shocks that this very thing is going to impose on us. That is why the government has set up the committee, which the ambassador referenced. We need to look at how we can go back to the drawing board and look at our 2025 budget and begin to look at how this will affect our revenue, how this will affect our foreign exchange assumptions. Because these assumptions are going to change. And if your assumptions are changing, then all your projections in terms of revenue and expenditure need to change so that we don't create another problem down the line. I'm talking of macroeconomic problems. Problem of high deficit, problem of another high inflation rate, problem of volatility in the currency. So both the central bank and the fiscal authorities, of course, needs to be engaging very seriously now, because we need to be very proactive so that we don't have this kind of shocks. Then thirdly, it's about proper economic integration. ECOWAS has been in place since 1975. That's about 50 years. How much progress have we made? Many of the economic blocs that are doing well today, many of them came decades after we set up ECOWAS. But as we speak, and just as what Ken said, we are still struggling with proper integration framework, even at the level of ECOWAS. And if you don't get it right at the regional level, you'll have to struggle to get it right with the African Continental Free Trade Area. So we need to commit properly to the protocols. As I'm talking to you now, if you talk to exporters who are exporting within the sub-region, in spite of all this free trade thing that is on paper, in spite of all this ETA, that's trade liberalization scheme that allows you to move your product once it is registered under the scheme freely, exporters are facing a lot of problems at Benin Republic, at Togo, a lot of levies. They call it transit levy, security levy, all sorts of levies. Sometimes up to close to 5 million, 10 million per container. These things are frustrating economic integration. So the leaders in the sub-region should also commit to proper integration. And the political leaders, even on the continent, you can see that we are not moving as fast as we should move. With respect to the African Continental Free Trade Area, it's extremely very slow. Of course, we have done some symbolic exports under the Guided Trade Initiative. We exported some containers of, well, few containers of some goods and all of that. There was a lot of celebration around it. But after that, what has happened? You know, so we need to commit a lot more to remove obstacles to trade within the sub-region at the continental level, and this is a political thing. We are not taking it seriously enough, and that is why there is so much violation of the protocols with impunity. There are some goods now that cannot go to Benin Republic. For instance, cement. They will tell you that, no, we don't want you to come and create problems for our industries here who are producing cement. This is in spite of the protocols that we have signed. So please, ambassadors should also help us in this, to communicate with the right authorities to ensure that at the regional level, there is better commitment to the protocols that we sign, so that the protocols are not just academic. So let me there, so that, thank you.
Ambassador wants to respond to you, but I'm sure that will be after the break. But I want to stay with you quickly. You talk about immediate shocks. You talk about the effect on revenue and foreign exchange assumptions and all of that. Can you speak to us about how this situation will affect the cost of living in Nigeria, particularly for low-income households?
No, you see, anything that affects the exchange rate affects the cost of living, because we are in an economy that is highly sensitive to exchange rate movements. In the last few weeks, exchange rate has moved from 1,550 and so on. It's now over 1,600. If that trajectory continues, you begin to feel the impact in the market, because those who are in the business of either production will now begin to adjust prices. So the exchange rate sensitivity is the most important. And I must commend the CBN. The CBN has been doing a lot, at least in the past 1 year, to stabilize the exchange rate. But again, they can only go as far as our reserves can support. So we are very vulnerable, the citizens are vulnerable to exchange rates. Then if revenues are dropping, fiscal deficit is likely to increase. If fiscal deficit increases, it creates problem of inflation. So that is another effect. Those things affect the common people, because the greatest challenge that the common people are facing is the cost of living, the purchasing power of the people. And exchange rate movement affects it, inflation also affects it, energy prices affects it, transportation costs affects it. And all of these things are rested on the quality of the macroeconomic environment, which these developments can create. But if you manage it well, the impact will not be so pronounced on the citizens.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Muda Yusuf. We'll take a break now. When we come back, Ambassador Akiremi will respond to some of the issues raised by Dr. Yusuf. Stay with us.
When we think about the digital economy, you can see it as the marketplace for digital goods and services. And increasingly, it's becoming a force to reckon with and an incredible contributor to economic growth, because we've seen the growth in technology and digital platforms. Technology has it really permeated every aspect of life and business, the way we live, the way we work. And when we talk about the digital economy, we're really talking about leveraging technology and digital platforms in a powerful way to drive growth, to drive solutions to problems, to drive applications, and to provide services.
The digital economy is something that has the potential to help Nigeria leapfrog a lot of its development challenges, right? Because think about what the mobile phone did for Nigeria years ago. That is the potential we have for digital, because it has a way of reducing the barriers to innovation. It has a way of being able to transform service delivery, whether it's government's delivery of services or whether it's services in the health system where people can use digital to actually be able to see their patients better. But it takes a lot to realize that potential of digital. The first thing is like every other thing, there's an infrastructure you have to build to be able to make sure that digital economy can thrive. Think of something like, capturing that happens in Nigeria, right? Where you capture, people's biometric when they go for a driver's license, when they go for passports, and each of those are separate things. Largely a system where we're able to streamline that and actually have a platform that exchange biometric information that makes it easier for people to access passports, easier for people to register to vote. But today it's very tough, right? But those are basic infrastructure that needs to be invested in. A lot of it is through government and private sector collaborations to make it happen.
If we're looking to accelerate growth in the Nigerian space, we really need to look at enabling the digital economy. That includes providing digital infrastructure, connectivity, because that's the highway, like the highway that everything rides on. We need to think about digital capacity building in terms of the suppliers to the economy and also the consumers within the economy. So a robust digital literacy initiative. The good thing about technology is that, one, it helps you to transcend boundaries. Two, it creates a level playing field, really, because if you create a solution, a technology-based solution that is applicable in this environment, that same technology can be applicable, exported to other environments. And, technology platforms also help drive collaboration, right? When we're thinking about innovation, when we're thinking about business growth, collaboration is an important part of that. So when we think about the impacts with the rest of the world, we find that actually technology platforms are giving us an opportunity to engage more actively, to collaborate, to create partnerships, to even export our knowledge and services for people to engage with all the great things I'm talking about technology and digital platforms. They need access, internet access, broadband access. So we need to make sure that access is more available and affordable for the average user.
The most important thing is to think about where you want to go as a country and actually what type of policies are going to help get you there. There are examples of countries who've been able to transform using digital, for example. There are very clear things those countries did to be able to make it happen. So a lot of this, the pathway to be able to solve these problems are not mysterious, right? It takes courage of the policymakers to be able to understudy some of these things and bring in the policies that work to be able to help them.
All right, many thanks for remaining with us. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And our guests are still very much with us, discussing the U.S. tariffs and the Nigerian economy. But just before we continue with the conversation, of course, let Ambassador Bolaji Alade Akinremi respond to some of the comments made earlier before we went on the break. It's important to let you know that this is breaking, by the way. Just reaching us indicates that electricity supply has been restored in Bayelsa and parts of River State following the reconstruction of vandalized 4 transmission towers along Owerri-Ahoda line. All right, so that's cheering news to those who, have been in a blackout. All right, so let's get back into the conversation. And of course, Ambassador Akiremi, you'd respond to, all that has been said. Quite a lot.
Yeah, quite a lot. But let me thank Dr. Ken for bringing to our attention what happened when the Saudis visited. And to say that was part of our effort in foreign affairs. But the missing link is that we didn't get feedback from you. Many a times we don't understand the role of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's the only ministry that is the window to the global world. And so whether it's economic matters, medical, whatever it is that is going outside, you have to carry the foreign ministry along. Now, the simple solution to this matter is what Mr. President is already doing to attract investment into the country. What you need now at this point in time is investment. And you need either locally or internationally to boost your capacity. Just about 2 months ago, we were in Namibia, and probably you have heard of MITCO. MITCO does what you're doing, but MITCO get more publicity through their foreign ministry. Why? Because they are aware, and it's entirely a private sector business, but you get a boost when a foreign dignitary visits that country. They'll find a way of taking them to MITCO. And when you listen to what they will tell you, you will almost close your own abattoir in your country and ask that meat be imported from Namibia. Can we do the same with yours? These are things we need to do. Packaging. We are not using what we have very well. And this is why I continue shouting about coordination. We also have realized it in foreign ministry, and possibly that is why my office has just been created. I'm the pioneer director of that department. And what we're focusing on is service delivery. And before we do that, we need to even allow and make people understand what we are capable of doing. You talking now about off-takers. But before you go into this, I need to let you know. Let me give you another example. In the same Namibia, in that country, they are producing dates because their soil is good for it. But the dates they are producing is an investment by UAE. So there are a lot of partnership that we can do, a lot of coordination with our private sector. We need to take advantage of what we have. And this is the major problem we have in Nigeria. We are too blessed. We cannot be talking of hunger. Let me react to what Dr. Muda said. Yes, we are import dependent, but that should be changing now. And government really need to work on that orientation. The National Orientation Agency needs to work on that. Private sector needs to work on that. Eat what you produce. When you eat what you produce, there will be less pressure on your foreign exchange. And majority of our people now think it's a sign of affluence by taking imported things. Wearing imported
But how much can we produce with all the challenges that exist? Security, electricity, just a plethora of issues.
It's because you have alternative. There are local ways of producing everything, including kakai. But we spend so much time drinking Glevendish. We spend so much time, 400,000, 1 million, 2 million, people are buying imported liquor.
Status level.
The status level. There is nothing it offers you other than it make you shock. It's the same thing palm oil will do to you. So let's not let our problem look like we are the only one that have this problem. Why will someone rise up and say if India cannot cannot produce the clothes they wear, let them go naked? Okay? And today, they wear what they produce.
Yeah.
All right? Why must our women use Mary Kay that is not produced in Nigeria? Why they produce in the country that the Mary Kay is made? Why must we wear the Brazilian hair that is not produced in Nigeria? What does it add to you? So there is a lot of psychological rearrangement that we need to make.
Okay.
All right? So that is one on the area of pressure on our foreign exchange. Government has to put its feet down. I served as head of mission in a country called Singapore. They didn't just get to where they are today, but for one man who stood up and said, this is the direction we will go. All right? And they all have to follow. Okay? There will be many more Trumps. Other countries are going to come up with their own policies. If you cannot control your own people and control what you do in your country, there will continue to be external influence. And when the external influence comes, you will be indebted to those countries. We must continue, we must now be firm on discouraging AIDS. Because we are more than sufficient.
Okay.
We are more than sufficient. So when we discuss like this, our nationals are listening. I hope NTA get this kind of things together and send to the authority.
They listen.
This is what needs no. Well, you don't have people in authority always sitting down by television at 8:39. Okay, there are so many things. There might be some aides that are listening, but there should be a regular compilation to help policies and implementation. You see, in the area of implementation, we are seriously lagging behind. And that's why we are where we are. So what we need to do now is that as NTA is doing this, you disburse this to the concerned MDAs and private sector. At the show on so-so date, these were the area that we think concerns your MDA. Can you consider them for consideration? National orientation is with you. What can we say that we are getting from national orientation? How many people get to know the direction that the national orientation is leading us? We are not criticizing any agency now, but what we are saying is that all hands have to be on deck. Sometimes we think trade or tariffs is only for the people in charge of the economy. No, it's for everybody. We have to change that mentality. We have to change that orientation. And there is no way you can build something on nothing. So when government says, I am putting this down in terms of funding, this is the reason why I'm doing it. And this is the result I expect at the end of the day. And we are monitoring. This is possible. It's done elsewhere.
Okay.
So all the questions they have raised.
No, he said something about the ETLS. That
Yes,
is the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme. And there is need for it to be retuned to remove all the obstacles that are hindering, this free trade.
It is still part of lack of coordination.
Yeah.
He has said something very great by saying that a trailer is paying up to 5 million.
Yeah.
Now, as part of what will be coming under reforms and innovation in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, will be what we call complaints and compliance. These are things that we are doing quietly, but we need to promote now. Because we don't receive this, we don't know how to challenge our interlocutor. Okay? When we shut down our borders, which Dr. Ken referred to, very interesting. It was, the government might not have consulted them, but there were intelligence that led into that. Okay? So we need our populace to feed us back. We need businesses to feed back government. And foreign affairs may not look to you as part of the component, but it is the major ones we are dealing with other countries.
Don't you have feedback mechanism in your industry?
But we cannot be going to every trader to say, what are you suffering? They have a coordination body, okay? There is NASIMA for them. There is NIPSI for small industrialist Nigeria. There is OPS, Organized Private Sector. They have to coordinate all of these things. And I'm saying categorically here that this has not been upgraded, that has not been escalated to our level.
Okay.
All right? So if we need to call a national meeting on some of these things that we are suffering to tie up the loose end, why not? Okay. And I'm challenging NTA to do this so that we can all be together on fighting this, because no particular harm can do it alone, whether the private sector or the government or even banks.
Okay, many thanks, Ambassador.
Let me ask Dr. Ken now. Are there opportunities in this tariff that, Nigeria can take advantage of? Like, are there any opportunities for Nigeria to benefit from this U.S. tariff? Do you see any advantage at all?
Ordinarily, there ought to have been opportunities. It may not be advantages, opportunities. Because when tariff has been hiked, you must also look at the sectors. And that's why I talked about government and surveillance mechanism, economic surveillance tool. There are sectors that are particularly focused by Trump. And this is what I also want trade practitioners to understand, the underlying factor. What are those sectors? Vehicles, cars, number one. Machineries and equipment, number two. High-tech manufacturers, number three. And this is within the ICT. Now, if you look at this, it tells you that Trump is not really targeting Nigeria, not targeting African countries.
Small fries like you.
You know, he's targeting
China. And
you have mentioned. I didn't want to mention. You have mentioned it. So what do you do? Now, if these items are coming from the Asian tigers, as it were, to them, can you now begin to look at fostering, government now, fostering partnerships with China? And by the way, the Chinese president yesterday traveled to Cambodia and Vietnam. Some of us monitor these things just to get the direction. Why did he go there? The tariff meant for Cambodia and Vietnam is not as high as that of China. So there could be re-exportation from these countries. This is wisdom. Can we, at this point, if we were affected, let's put our ourselves in the shoe of being affected, being China. What could we do? Why don't we not begin to look at fostering those kind of relationships indirectly, and then using the opportunity to enter the Chinese market, the American market, then EU market, which is right there, and then having discussions with kind of partnerships that will now draw their factories into here. That's what I see as investments. Foreign direct investment capture. Not attraction, capture.
Dr. Ken, I agree with you. And I'm going to repeat what I said on Namibia. I said date, right? Dabino is now being exported by Namibia. But it is the investment. It is the investment of UAE. So what Dr. Ken is saying is that re-export is what they do in UAE.
Okay.
And this is why we are also having, and I must give you an information here. That's why we are having all these negotiations with these countries. Okay. But like I said, we need collaboration and information from the private sector. And we need them to also be part of our negotiating team.
Do you invite them when you are having these issues?
You see, we cannot be inviting individuals.
But the association.
The associations. And you know, the organized private sector are 5 arms. I'm not sure whether the Traders Association operates under NASIMA or under what is called NASI, which is small industrialist. Okay? I don't know precisely, but that's why I said we will. But we can also put them on our mailing list, all right? Very vibrant president like this, we can do that. But let us not forget that contiguity is very important. It's very easy for China to go to Cambodia. Most of the investment in Vietnam were from South Korea. All right. Nigeria has to answer its name. You cannot be called the giant of Africa without really being giant in policies and implementation. Those ideas are in books, okay? But we need individuals, organizations, institutions to take them out and implement them. And government must not be overwhelmed.
All right. Yeah, government must not be overwhelmed. Fine point. And, that leads me to my next question as we begin to round off this conversation. And, of course, I'd like Dr. Yusuf to respond to this. We've been talking about what government can do, and all that. But what can the private sector do, in all of this, just so that we can adapt to this tariff and promote economic growth?
Well, for the private sector is ever ready. We have one of the best crop of entrepreneurs globally. We are always looking for opportunities. What the private sector is seeking is the removal of these barriers and the creation of the right environment for them to be able to grow and contribute more to the economy better than what they are doing now. The reality is that an economy gets the kind of investors that it deserves. It is the environment you create that will determine the kind of investment that you will get. The most profitable investment today is in services, just as I mentioned. But we need to support those who are in production. How are you going to compete, for instance? You are borrowing in the bank at 30% interest rate. What kind of production do you want to do? Even for you to access the domestic market is an issue. Because Asian products, Chinese products have dominated the market. So much so that domestic investors are struggling. So the private sector is ever ready. The Nigerian private sector is, and I must also make this point. You must have some deliberate policy framework to support indigenous private sector. Because it's one thing to, look at our manufacturing space. It's been taken over almost completely now by Asian investors. We have to be deliberate. Because these are investors that have support from their home countries. Some of them are coming here with funds of 0 interest rate from their home country to invest here in Nigeria. While our domestic indigenous entrepreneurs are borrowing at 30%. But I must acknowledge the government has been taking some steps now to better capitalize and improve our development finance institutions. Because there's no way you can get production to thrive if you ask industrialists to go to the commercial banks and be borrowing at 30%. It cannot work. Where are you going to sell the product? That's why many of the exports that we do that is non-knowledge, they are primary products. Because the cost of value addition is extremely very high. The cost of logistics is extremely very high. So there has to be that deliberate effort to ensure that we bring down the cost of production, the cost of financing. And I must also commend the government for bringing back the Bank of Agriculture. I'm told now, at least from what I read, I think about 150 billion has been earmarked. You also need to see a lot more role, a lot more, capitalization for Bank of Industry, Development Bank of Nigeria, and some funds for SMEs, because you cannot expose the real sector to the market environment, to the financial market that is operating under purely market principles. There has to be a moderation, there has to be a calibration of the way we also manage the financial system. So that for sectors that are vulnerable, we give them some concessionary window for financing. You can't borrow money now to go and say you want to either build a house. There's no mortgage system when interest rate is around 30%.
Dr. Yusuf, because of time, really, we need to, end this conversation now. But of course, it's a continuous one, and I hope that we'll get to talk about it some other time on Good Morning Nigeria or some other programs that we have on the NTA. We do sincerely appreciate you for joining us. But I think I would like to take the last words from Ambassador Akinremi, just in 30 seconds. What will be your words to Nigerians?
Arrest all these, NTA should arrest all these very cogent points that are being made by very
That's to
dynamic
NTA,
people.
to Nigerians.
Yes, and to Nigerians, they need to collaborate with their government to ensure that policies are being implemented the way they are designed and they play their own part.
Okay, thank you,
because the
sir.
citizens are needed.
Thank you very
Dr.
much.
Ken. 30 seconds.
One thing.
Yeah.
Within this particular time, there is something urgent the Nigerian government would need to do. And the committee that is set up by the federal government would need to consider this very urgently. Because with what has happened now, China, Mexico, all of
Well, out
them,
of time.
yes, all of them would be looking for areas where they would dump their goods. We need to look at that very critically and see how to step.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Ambassador Bolaji Alade Akinremi, Director of Foreign Service and Reforms and Innovation Department, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Many thanks for being a guest. We do sincerely appreciate your insights. Of course, Dr. Ken Okoha, always a delight to have you, President, National Association of Nigerian Traders. Thank you so much for being our guest. And of course, Dr. Muda Yusuf, CEO, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise and former DG at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. We do appreciate you. It's time to go, but we want you to know that you can now share your comments and reactions with us through our phone line. It's been displayed on the screen, so you can, of course, copy that. And you can only send text messages. The number is 0816-968-8126. I'll take that again, 0816-968-8126. You can send text messages, your reactions, your thoughts, whatever it is that you want to share with us. Would sincerely appreciate it. So that's Good Morning Nigeria today.
That will be from tomorrow.
Well, from today, of course. From today, I mean, we could still read and implement.
Right.
Thank you so much. I'm Ian Ray John.
And I'm Adimola. You do have a lovely day.